My life, once a vibrant tapestry woven with another, had slowly unraveled, leaving behind threads of silence and a quiet, almost austere existence. I found solace within the walls of a modest downtown condo, a stark contrast to the house that still, in my memory, echoed with the laughter and skirmishes of a shared past. My days had settled into a predictable rhythm, the hum of work, the turning pages of books, the occasional solitary venture into the city's pulse. It was a life devoid of grand thrills, yet it offered the profound calm I'd sought after the tempest that had once defined me. For a long stretch of time, an unspoken pact had governed our separate worlds. Neither Emily nor I dared breach the fragile peace that had settled between us. The wounds, though unseen, remained too raw, a stark reminder of the battles fought and lost. I convinced myself that distance was a sanctuary, a necessary barrier against the old angers, the deep-seated resentments we had painstakingly buried beneath years of shared history. To face her, I feared, would be to shatter the delicate equilibrium I had so carefully constructed. Then, on an evening steeped in the crisp chill of late autumn, as the city lights began to prick the deepening twilight, a sudden, unexpected knock startled me. I wasn't awaiting any visitor. My hand hesitated on the doorknob, a tremor of unease preceding the sight that greeted me. There she stood, Emily, her silhouette framed by the hallway's dim glow, her eyes a complex mirror reflecting both a fragile resolve and a palpable uncertainty. "James," she whispered, her voice a barely audible tremor that sent an unexpected shiver through me. My mind reeled. "Emily, what brings you here?" I asked, the words a strained breath. "I know this is sudden," she began, her fingers nervously intertwining, a familiar gesture. "But I need to talk to you. It's important." A deluge of questions surged within me, a tempest of hope and dread. Was this a prelude to reopening old wounds, to dragging forgotten grievances back into the stark light? Or was there, beneath the surface of this startling visit, something genuinely amiss? Despite the storm raging within, I instinctively stepped aside, a silent invitation. She entered, her movements cautious, settling onto the far edge of my sofa, her posture rigid, guarded. I sat opposite her, the space between us charged with the weight of years, of unspoken words, of fractured dreams. Her gaze met mine, then dropped to her hands. "It's about my father," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Richard. The name itself was a ghost, a specter of contention. His disapproval of me had been a relentless shadow throughout our marriage, an unwelcome presence, a constant source of unspoken friction between us. Now Emily's eyes glistened, tears threatening to spill. "He's very sick," she managed, the words catching in her throat. "The doctors, they don't believe he has much time left, and he's been asking to see you." I blinked, stunned, the silence in the room amplifying the impossible nature of her request. "Why?" I finally managed, the word a raw question. "Why would he want to see me?" She looked up, her gaze steady, though still laced with pain. "He wants to apologize," she added quietly, her voice imbued with the weariness I hadn't heard before. He feels responsible for everything that happened." Her words struck me with the force of an unexpected blow. Richard, the man who, with such relentless precision, undermined my every step, chipping away at the foundation of my life with Emily. Now he sought forgiveness. The irony was a bitter taste, yet beneath it, a strange, unsettling quiet began to gather in my heart, battling the surge of old, familiar anger. "I don't know, Emily," I confessed after a long, drawn-out pause, the complexity of it all pressing down on me. "This is difficult." Her response was immediate, almost a plea. "I understand," she said, her eyes searching mine. "But it would mean so much to him and to me. I studied her face, searching for any flicker of manipulation, any hidden agenda. But there was none. Only a raw sincerity, a profound vulnerability, a quiet desperation that resonated deep within me. Against every logical instinct, a flicker of the old care, a subtle stirring of connection ignited within me. Slowly, deliberately, I nodded. All right, I conceded, the word feeling both heavy and liberating. I'll go. A few days later, I stood outside Richard's hospital room, a phantom pulse thrumming in my ears. The air was thick with unspoken fears and the sterile scent of antiseptic. Emily stood beside me, a quiet sentinel, her composure a shield against the tumult of the moment. At her almost imperceptible nod, I pushed the door open. Inside, Richard was a diminished figure, slumped in a chair, frail and transparent. The once imposing force, a man whose presence commanded fear and respect, was now mere a shadow of his former self. Yet when his gaze fell upon me, a weak smile, hesitant but genuine, softened his face, and his eyes glimmered with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "James," he rasped, his voice unsteady, fragile. "Thank you for coming." I simply nodded, a knot in my throat, my emotions a chaotic blend of lingering resentment and a surprising wave of pity. "I've been thinking about the past," he continued, his gaze, though weakened, fixed intently on mine. "And I see now the damage I caused between you and Emily. I truly believed I was protecting her, but all I did was inflict pain on both of you." His words landed, heavy and resonant, stirring a long, dormant ache within me, a pain I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. Yet, paradoxically, there was a strange, undeniable comfort in hearing him acknowledge his profound role in our shared suffering. I swallowed hard, my throat tight, the air suddenly thick with shared history. "I appreciate you saying that, Richard, but it wasn't only you. Emily and I, we made our own mistakes too." A faint, almost imperceptible smile flickered across his lips. "Perhaps," he conceded softly, "but I still hope you can find it in your heart to forgive an old man for what he did." I felt the colossal weight of years, of grievances held close, pressing down on me. Then, with a profound shift, a quiet easing, I said the words that once seemed impossible. "I forgive you," I said, meeting his gaze, "and I truly mean it." That conversation, bathed in the muted light of a hospital room, marked a silent turning point. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, there was room for peace, not just in my life, but in the echoes between us. Emily and I did not slip back into the familiar patterns of our past, nor did the embers of our old romance miraculously rekindle. But as we spent the unfolding days together, supporting her father through his final quiet journey, something unexpected, something profoundly human began to emerge. A mutual respect, a quiet companionship born of shared grief and renewed understanding. When Richard finally passed, his release as gentle as the whisper of falling leaves, Emily and I stood side by side at his funeral, not as husband and wife, but as two souls who had endured a storm, weathered its aftermath, and emerged irrevocably changed. In the reflective days that followed, our conversation shifted. We spoke not of failures, but of cherished memories, of hard-won lessons, and of the immense distance we had both traveled, separately and together. There was no romantic reunion. That chapter was undeniably closed, its story told. Yet for the first time in years, I could look at her without the sting of anger or the dull ache of pain, only a quiet, profound acceptance. Sometime later, an envelope arrived bearing the somber imprint of Richard's lawyer. Inside, A modest inheritance lay nestled beside a handwritten note, its edges softened by time. James, thank you for forgiving me. Use this to start something new. You deserve it. Reading those words, a deep, cleansing wave of relief washed over me, a peace I hadn't realized I so desperately needed. Richard's final act was not about money, but about an offering of grace, a profound gesture of reconciliation. And on that cold autumn evening, when Emily had first appeared at my door, I could never have imagined it would lead to this quiet, transformative place. Not to the rekindling of a lost love, but to the deep, resonant echoes of closure, of understanding, and the ultimate, liberating power of forgiveness.
I had learned, in the crucible of unexpected grace, that forgiveness is not merely a choice, but one of the most profound gifts a soul can bestow, not only upon another, but most significantly, upon itself.